The Kayfabe Crunch keeps in touch with thanks to Fourth Wall Communications. Our all-in-one digital communication suite helps you stay connected in these unclear times. Host up to 2 people at once, maybe a third if it's 3 a.m. and our servers can handle it. And see your loved ones and colleagues across 360 crystal clear pixels.
The Kayfabe Crunch. Everybody news.
Good news, this is your Kayfabe Crunch for Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. I'm David, Doomsday Device. Coming up on today's show, we bring you all the fallout from Money in the Bank. But first, on this day in grappling history, 13 years ago today, Ring of Honor presented its first pay-per-view event. It featured wrestlers such as Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Kevin Steen, and El Generico, who we've never heard of. Clearly, they weren't good enough to make it in this great sport. Before I get on with the news today, I've actually just got to make a quick call to my wife, so JD, could you edit this out? Thanks, man. Hi, honey. Yeah, no, I'm good. Do you think you could pick Josh up from the Logans? Yeah. No, it's good that he's able to get out again. No, I trust them. They're a clean family. Well, no, I can't. I don't really have time. I'm sort of... Yeah, I'm doing the podcast. Well, I don't know, whatever you've got time for, I guess. Just collect him and drop him off in the middle of the road somewhere. Hello? Oh, she hung up. Okay. Hope she doesn't take that out of context. And now, let's get on with the Rooftop-Rumble news. Top story. Yes, on Sunday, we finally saw the corporate Money in the Bank match. This unique version of the yearly event delivered on what was promised. 12 people scrambling to the top of a building to unhook a briefcase. This is wrestling. The men began in the company gym because they're men and they like working out. Makes sense. The women started in the lobby, right beside the elevators, which is a little patronizing, suggesting the women need a bit of a head start. And Asuka got just that. She jumped straight in an elevator and closed the door behind her. But instead of taking it all the way to the roof, she got out a few floors up. Perhaps mankind was messing with the wiring down in the boiler room. We can't be sure. Meanwhile, the men fought in the gym and King Corbin broke a mirror, which means 7 years of bad luck for his career. Unless, of course, he goes on to win everything this decade, and then it's 7 years of bad luck for fans. We saw in this match that some employees had elected not to work from home, as the competitors stumbled upon Paul Heyman, Brother Love, and Stephanie McMahon. Surely advocacy, cartoonish management, and brand officiating, whatever the hell that is, can be done remotely. Later in the match, AJ Styles was locked inside a room with a coffin. We can assume this is where The Undertaker hibernates between matches, and if you paid close attention, you might have seen several druids in the canteen area. They may be immortal, but they still need a Jimmy John's. Speaking of, a food fight broke out, and we all know Vince has watched that scene over and over again since Sunday night. Oh, and speaking of Vince... Gosh, these are good segues. AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan brawled in his office. And yes, it turns out he has a real Tyrannosaurus Rex skull mounted to the wall. We're now hearing Triple H has 6 Velociraptor skulls in his office, as they're faster, smarter, and ready to take down older dinosaurs. Eventually, the competitors made it to the top story, which was that's the joke I made at the start, now you know. Where Asuka won for the women and Otis won for the men. Congratulations to the Empress in the bank and the man who now has a convenient place to store his cold meats. Serious voice. The real story here, though, was the 2 counts of murder committed by King Corbin, as he threw both Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black from the roof. Authorities have been informed, and the 7 years of bad luck for this known fugitive are about to begin. I bet a lot of men in prison would like to dethrone a king. Oh, I'm just getting some breaking news across my desk now, which is odd as there's no one in the room with me. Mysterio and Black are alive and well, as there was a second, smaller roof. Why is there always a second roof? And now it's time for your fast count, the Money in the Bank conference room of news. R-Truth promises to find and defeat Tom Brady. He'll have some trouble, however, as Brady was last seen taking the air out of Truth's tires.
Seth Rollins' sperm, now the biggest villain in the wrestling industry. Congratulations to the man. We'll miss you.
Next week, stars from Raw and SmackDown will go head-to-head in the one night of the wait. Look, I know we've been indoors for a while, but it can't be November yet, can it?
Braun Strowman, the only member of the roster to comply with social distancing guidelines by wearing a sheep mask in his match on Sunday.
Seth Rollins proves he's ready for fatherhood by demonstrating he understands the hazardous, sharp corners that can be found in the average wrestling home.
Humberto Carrillo gets aggressive with a chair. It would be nice if he'd start getting aggressive with his opponents, but those dimples. I just can't imagine him angry.
The Viking Raiders exceptionally good at basketball. Unfortunately, as there are no Viking-themed teams in the NBA, they'll have to stick to wrestling.
The Iconics return to Monday Night Raw by defeating Bliss Cross. The Iconics in the women's tag division. Name a more archetypal duo. I'll wait.
WWE set to have the most exciting match in history. A regular wrestling match between Edge and Randy Orton. Regular wrestling? In this day and age? Bold move. And that's your fast count.
You've been counted out. And about bloody time.
And there's just time for a look at the headlines traditional wrestling media are leading with. The Grappling Ogler has an opinion piece on Tamina's wrestling ability, where they've absolutely roasted her. Now, gentlemen, just because she didn't win, that doesn't make her a bad wrestler. I know you're making the case here based on her age and physicality, but come on, Goldberg won a championship this year. Sect Addicts have a feature ranking the Money in the Bank cash-ins from worst to best. My personal favourite was Damian Sandow's, as Cena got to take that arrogant fool down a peg. Which, when that happens, it's always funny. Oh, the mic. The Grandstand latest are calling for the arrest and public trial of King Corbin, although they do say that they would like him to remain king, as the world needs leadership stability at this time. And Ryan Duvet of Pro Wrestling Duvet has come out in defense of Tamina, stating, and I quote, "She can wrestle. I've seen it with my own eyes, and anyone who says she can't is a blind idiot. And I should know, my eyesight is out of this world. The doctors say I have 20/20 vision, and that I'll never need glasses except for maybe reading when I'm older. That's how good my eyes are. My eyes are the best. My eyes are the best for seeing wrestling. I'm a wrestling eye god, and therefore Tamina is the greatest of all time." Okay, join us Saturday when we'll bring you all the latest real news from the real events that take place in the very real world of wrestling. And remember, you can support this podcast by giving us some feedback. Follow us on Twitter at Kayfabe Crunch and let us know what you think. Your thoughts are important to us, apparently. This has been the Kayfabe Crunch, your not quite daily, not quite news, bump for the world of professional wrestling.
The Kayfabe Crunch keeps in touch with thanks to Fourth Wall Communications. We're the chosen software of wrestling companies around the world. In fact, a certain billion-dollar deal between Saudi Arabia and a major wrestling company was finalized via Fourth Wall. The connection was sketchy, and now one party thinks that Goldberg has to be at every show. But apart from that,
The Kayfabe Crunch.